Hello and welcome back to Behind the Joystick. I'm your host, Cordy Yikes. And it's been a minute. It's been a hot minute, but we are bringing it back with something really, really awesome. And it is going to be the one, the only, and that is PR Pirates. From starting a little bit after the pandemic to now being a well known indie PR team or PR person. Um, it's really great to deep dive into things that he's done in the industry and also differentiate what actually is PR. So, I hope you enjoy this episode.
Bishop from Belgium, and I started the company Pirate PR in 2022 to help small indie developers give them a solution on how to do PR and marketing at an affordable rate, basically.
That's awesome. How were you? So you started this around like the pandemic time.
After the
After,
pandemic
yeah.
time for me was a quiet period because I was working for a company called OneUp. Well, one of the things I was working on back then was OneUp, and it was
Hmm.
a physical expo. And we actually did one at the end of February in 2020, like right at the doorstep of the event, which
Oh
was
my
a good
gosh.
marketing thing because I could say that year the best Belgian gaming conference of the year because we were also the only one that happened. And then afterwards, because yeah, physical events were in a decline, I had like a full year of not doing much myself. That was kind of the reason why I started Pirate PR because it was something digital only, didn't require me physically helping games or going to events for them, um, and focusing on digital marketing basically.
That's awesome. How, well, could you walk through how like the beginning phases of Pirate PR started?
Yeah, sure. So I started the company with two people. It was me and Thibaut at the time, mostly because I never started a company before. I was always under employment. I still am today. I still have a mother company above me, which is Kronos. It's Belgium's biggest IT company, but they're
Oh wow.
completely hands off. They basically funded me and they trusted me and they said like, whatever you're doing in games always seems to work. So if you've got a new plan, just go ahead and do it, and we'll fund it. I'm still
That's
doing that on
awesome.
at the moment under them. But at that point, I was still very insecure about stuff like, will I be doing lead generations? Like getting new clients in was something I was really worried about. I didn't had a PR company. It was also a very rough year that first year because we went to Gamescom in 2022, and then
Oh
like, hey,
wow.
can we do PR for you? Sure. What's your portfolio look like? Well, since we only started, nothing.
Right.
um, I was helping some local Belgian games at the time with community work, like mostly handling their social media, but I already knew I was going to want to exit that kind of
Right.
activity at some point because I was also feeling very insecure, and it's very metrics driven. Like if you're doing social media for a game, it's always like, why is there no viral tweets yet, or why is our game not selling millions of copies because you made a viral TikTok or something.
Right.
Um, Eventually decided it wasn't for me, and so it's just a lot of time invested there, and also respect to all social media managers out there, but they're usually vastly underpaid because nobody is willing to pay them what they are worth because it's like so many hours that crawl into it before you get a decent success.
Yes.
But
That's
basically,
actually the hardest part is
yeah,
because people think whenever you hire a social media manager, they're
the
just
next
going to
week
blow up.
success. Yeah, no,
Yes.
no, that's not
No.
how it works at all.
No.
Plus, it also really depends on the kind of game you're working on. And then I know it's a cliche of the game just has to be good, but it's really hard to promote a game when the game doesn't have a lot of initial appeal or doesn't distance itself from other games or has this like really unique USP. It's going
Right.
to be difficult and an uphill climb for anybody to give it any kind of notice.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
but that's where my roots are, like for one up as well, and for the very first games under Kronos Interactive, when my mother company still had dreams of becoming the first Belgian game publisher. I was basically their social media guy, and it worked because I grew all of their channels in like record time. But
That's
I hit
awesome.
plateaus, and I felt like I wasn't really doing what my calling was at that point.
Right.
Especially working on like one specific game, it's really draining. Always having to find new ways to talk about the same game multiple times in the same week is very challenging. Which is a lot
Yeah.
easier if you're doing PR. Like we are there for every major marketing beat. Like here's announcing a release date, or here's announcing a new trailer or something. But the
Oh,
poor
wow.
community managers, they have to find like three, four, five things every single week to keep the game relevant, and that's a lot more
Right.
challenging.
It also sounds like it's challenging for like at least an indie game because
Yes,
there's only so much content still made
yes,
in an indie game, and
yeah.
they're like, "Oh, we're still
And you
developing." And
can't
it's
show it
like,
all. There's this
"No."
difficult balance of when do we show too much? How much net new things do we need to share? Because that's something I learned later on, that it's perfectly okay to reuse your trailer or reuse your call to actions multiple times over and over again. And 3, 4 years ago, I was in a mindset of no, every post I made has to have a new screenshot or a new video or something like totally brand new,
Yeah.
because those people who have been following us from day one, they need new content. But you need to just accept that 90% of people seeing a post are going to be new, so you're going to have to show them the best possible content every single time,
Right.
and get over yourself a little bit. That's like, I've got a fan base of people who are basically waiting for new content to be drip fed to me.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
What
But
made
yeah,
you
then that first year was a challenge convincing some people. But
Mhm.
luckily, I was already well known in Belgium, and my
Oh,
first few
nice.
clients were Belgian clients. And then I think the very, very first game we worked on as Pirate PR was Painting VR.
Oh,
So Pirate
nice.
PR and Painting VR.
Right.
um, and it was the very first game we worked on. It was already like a really good success, getting a lot of media coverage. And when VR was still an up and coming thing, now it's a bit of a decline. And then some other games trusted us as well. And then just slowly building that portfolio, and also me sharing a lot of information of here is how I work and why I do the things I do in a
Yeah.
very public manner on Twitter and now Blue Sky and other places like LinkedIn, like gradually got more and more high profile games to reach out to me. And
That's
now I'm at a
awesome.
point where I can show a good repertoire of like, here are all the games we worked on, and it's much more convincing. So I've got a much easier job of convincing people to work together.
That's really cool. What made you want to like specialize in games?
um Multiple reasons. I don't think an unimportant one of that would be imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like, I have already turned down games that bordered on the double A or triple A thing, that they were asking me to work for them, but for the same indie budgets, by the way. So, and then I would much rather spend my time helping a game that really needs me at the rate I ask. And I think the AAA companies, they can just afford to hire a big company where there's 10 employees doing what I do on my own.
Right.
Um, and also, yes, just on a personal level, I think I would feel very insecure working on bigger titles, and also the expectations they have. Like when I'm working on an indie, whenever I'm delivering results, and they are usually good, but I get the feeling that from the point of view of the indie dev, it's always like above their expectations. And
Right.
it's just a much more happy way to work and zen way to work, and like just being confident in what I do is a lot
Mhm.
more is just a lot better for me that way, versus constantly feeling like shit, this new thing I sent out didn't result in a million new wish lists or something.
Right.
So that's a
And
big
it's
part of it. And the other part of it is just, yeah, my passion for helping the small developers and knowing how hard they have to stand out, and
mhm.
giving them something affordable so they can at least try PR, instead of just not doing it at all and sending no press releases, sending out no keys outside of like a handful of people who reach out to them by email and end up being scammers or something. So
Yeah.
I just want to give them the option of doing the very necessary things that need to be done.
That's awesome. When should you think indie developers should start like looking into PR?
At the very, very, very least, around the time, well, usually the four main beats I try to at least accompany games with, but they don't always find me that early, is announcing the game. And then
Mhm.
the game announcement doesn't have to be right alongside the Steam page being launched or something, because I've got a lot of clients where they've got their Steam page going for 2 years, and it wasn't really final, but they just wanted to get it up there and wanted to get a link to people to say wishlist is. But it's usually only when you first announce a game officially via a press release, you make the effort of making a high quality trailer to announce the game, but when things really get started. And sometimes this can be early, but ideally, at the very least, it should be like a year before the game comes out, where you're starting to say, I'm working on this. You don't have to lock in when it's going to release just yet, but
Yeah.
that's usually around the time spot where I would like to go. This game exists, and a little bit later or at the same time, it depends. There's a demo out that you can play now because at that point we don't only activate press or some people to wishlist it, but suddenly content creators, they can start playing the demo, they can start making videos. And then the main two beats we usually work with on is with developers is the announcement of the release date and then the release date itself out now,
Mm,
and in between making sure all of the people who want to cover the game get their codes. But for
that's
when
awesome.
to announce a game, it's really dependent on the opportunities you see. For example, if you know you've got a really good game to announce, there's value in the announcement of it. And then I would tell all of those people, the developers, to just pitch to as many big showcases as possible. And the timing would go alongside with whatever big showcase first says, yes, you're included. Because
That's
if you've
awesome.
got that luxury, often I work with developers who don't even have it as a full time job and they make games in their after hours or something. And
Mm,
they've got this game that's like 80% done already, but they only just start doing marketing or talking about their game. And then you've got that luxury of there is no pressure behind it, there's no publisher or something. They're basically not pressured at all to release it at a certain date. They don't need the income either. Then it's f- basically a blank sheet for us to go and do the marketing when it's makes the most logical sense to do it, like with a big showcase, or we can take our time pitching the port to PlayStation, Nintendo, and Xbox to maybe include it in their showcases or to get support from their YouTube channels alongside it.
oh
It gives
wow.
us a lot more freedom to play with then.
Is that something hard to do? Because I think I got into the PR pirate during PAX. I think that's whenever I started getting like emails about games that are coming up was because of a convention. But is it hard to go through like showcases like Nintendo
Yes.
or Xbox?
Yeah, and then there to get into their showcases is like a holy grail because you've got guaranteed eyes on whatever you're talking about, and people
Mm,
used to watch those showcases from start to finish. It even gives you creative freedom because you know you can make a trailer that's going to be watched in its entirety. Whereas if you're
right.
just going to do a marketing beat on your own, where your trailer is the entire focus of it, and people are just going to watch it separately from whatever else they're consuming that day, then the
Mm,
very first second needs to grab them, or the
oh
second or
wow.
the third second at least. But
Right.
if you're in a showcase, you've got some leeway. But getting into them is pretty difficult because you need to go into open communication with them. They usually have very strict requirements for like Nintendo or something. Use this opening cutscene. No violence. This UI is forbidden or something. They really go into a conversation with developers of what's allowed, what's not allowed, and it's a back and forth of getting that one trailer submitted to them and approved by them,
Right.
usually for the eShop, before you can even start asking their marketing team, so we've got the trailer approved now, can you please consider putting us on your YouTube channel? That's already something that you can't count on, and it's a big success if you can get on there. But getting
Right.
into their showcases is like it's a one in a million chance, basically, because there's very few games who succeed in this, and it's usually the ones who already have some kind of success because the studio already worked on a big game, or the game was already massively popular on another platform like Steam or something, that they have the
Right.
confidence of showing you in a showcase.
So do you go through like are you like the middleman between the developer and that or that's
No.
just for them to do
Yes.
on their own?
Even
Oh
for
wow.
showcases themselves, for Nintendo, Xbox, and PlayStation, those things are always the publisher or the developer talking directly to the platform holder. I'm just the guy knocking at the door of the developer saying, please don't forget this because we're releasing a trailer then. And
Right.
Nintendo requires the trailer 5 to 10 working days before. PlayStation needs it 72 hours before. I'm basically the guy reminding them, like, hey, do this. You need to do it and you need to do it now. But I don't
Yeah.
handle it myself, though I'm usually end up being in CC of all of the emails and seeing, like, whoa, this took 20 emails back and forth with some guy in Germany from the European side of things for Nintendo just to get the trailer approved,
Wow.
and I can advise
Man.
them there. And then for showcases that are from third parties, like if Future Game Show does something, or
Mhm.
if Triple I Initiative does something, like if there are big showcases happening, I also advise my developers to submit themselves. And that's usually for a very logical reason because I'm a PR company that works at a really low rate. but not everybody knows that, especially those big outlets. They don't know it. And if they see a game being pitched by Robby at piratepr.com, and it's not the name of the publisher or not the name of the developer, they might wrongfully assume, so they're even paying a PR company to submit to events for us. They probably
Yeah.
got some money. And then that's why I always ask my developers to submit themselves, because otherwise the too easy reflex from those outlets can be like, let's ask a lot of money to be in the showcase, whereas usually I work for clients who don't even have the budget to pay to be in a showcase. They really
Right.
need to rely on being in the editorial free slots. There are
Right.
exceptions, of course, but the majority of my clients are like solo devs or small dev teams of 3 people working on a game.
Mm.
They don't have the bankroll to finance a big showcase that asks money to be in there.
Right. And I guess that's also a hard thing to explain to like indie developers too, because you have to explain to them that you're like PR, like you just kind of distribute, but you're
Yeah.
not. I'm not the person who's going to make your content like a social media manager.
Yes.
And how hard is it to like explain to them the difference between what you do and what like social media managers are supposed to do?
These days it's easier because I've laser focused on just the PR side of things. Like
Hmm.
when I started Pirate PR, I was offering social media, I was offering all kinds of services as well. And now it's really just I'm sending out press releases for you guys and making sure everybody gets keys. And that's it.
Right.
All of the other things is usually free advice I'm giving around those two actions, but those are the two things I'm billing for and that you can count on me to do. And since then it's pretty okay, but when it's really needed, I've even edited trailers for some clients, or on the last thing, like please supply me some screenshots, and then they give me like 8 megabyte PNGs that I
Oh
can't include in
no.
the press release, or everybody's inbox will go like, I can't
Mm.
swallow so much file size. So me making those final last edits is usually something I do to remove the bottleneck with my clients who are in a different time zone or something, and I'll still end up doing some things myself.
Oh man, that's awesome. Without breaking like any NDA signs, if you have any, is there any like examples of any campaigns or launches that you're like proud of, and what made them work?
Yeah, there's a few of them, but I don't want to take up too much time. Basically, there's like every game has something worthwhile shouting out. Um, but there's a few things that I'm proud of, like even the ones that didn't work out in the end. But I'm like, yeah, that was a really cool idea. For example, for the game Spreadsheet,
Mhm.
it didn't end up being a critical success or even a commercial success.
Oh
But it
wow.
was a really cool idea because their game is basically a puzzle played in a spreadsheet like thing. And the very first press release I sent out for them was in a spreadsheet that looked like Windows 95 UI.
Oh
So
no.
instead of getting the usual inbox press release people got, they were sent to a Google spreadsheet, and it really looked like an Excel sheet basically, where all of the fields were in different columns, and it was a really cool idea, I think, but it didn't land. I was really
Oh
hoping that one was going to be like, oh, cool, I finally get something that's totally new as a press release versus what I usually get.
right. Oh
Or there was
man.
one for Parallel Experiment where the developer made the form to request the game themselves. And I came up with the idea of after filling in the form, not before, because we don't want friction. We first want them to submit their data for requesting a key. And as soon as they pressed enter, there was a puzzle box at the end of it. And then with the explanation of if you solve the puzzle in the HTML5 interactive puzzle box in their browser, they would
Yeah.
get a code to the game to get access to exclusive content that's only accessible if you solve the puzzle.
Oh, that's
Stuff like this
awesome.
is I live for things like that. But
Oh
the
yeah.
problem is you can't promise something like this for every game, but not every game can have such a unique hook or a cool thing or something.
Right. I
Most of the
think
time
I've
it's just the basics, but
Yeah, because some of it's like, here's send this request a email, send an email, and request a code. It's like super like basic, but there are a few that are like, hey, let's do something fun,
yeah,
to get the code. That's awesome.
exactly. Or sometimes it's also a balance of striking like who am I talking to?
Mhm.
When I was working last year on the game Off, which is a 2008 original RPG that was available for free, but last year it released on Steam and Switch as a
Mhm.
commercial game. There were some hoops to jump through because, first of all, it had an existing fan base. It had like 3 million downloads already as a free game,
Oh
but then
wow.
suddenly we were asking money for it, but releasing it as a final version. But it was with a new soundtrack. And then we knew fans of the game would be upset at the original soundtrack, which was actually one of the reasons why it was so famous. That was going to be an issue. And then the other
Right.
thing was everybody knew, well, the fans all knew, this is the game that inspired Undertale. This is the game that inspired Deltarune and Omori and other like indie RPGs. Off was the
Right.
game that inspired all of those. But we knew that people who weren't aware, and I was one of them, would think it's the opposite, going like, ah, this was inspired by this game is made after those games, and we're hearing about it after those games, so it's taking inspiration from those titles, or it's the other way around.
Oh,
And that was
wow.
a difficult hoop for me to
No.
jump through because I knew fans would be upset that all of the articles by big outlets or something would have to use that to bandwagon on. Like, Off is coming
Yeah.
out. It was the game that inspired Undertale. Or Off is coming out. Toby Fox is even doing music for it. And I knew fans would be upset about the game having to write those more well known titles because
Right.
it earns that respect in its own right. But I still had to use those hooks to get the attention from press because otherwise they would just go like, here's another old school looking RPG maker style game or something. Why should I even care? And
Right.
really need those hooks, like Toby Fox is making the music for it. There is music in it by people that made Stray, the music for Stray. You really need those, hey, look at these important things, why this matters. And that was a
Hmm.
difficult balance to strike.
Oh man. Uh that sound that is, yeah, that's definitely a tough thing to do. Like really thinking about it, because you are fighting your community with it, but you're also trying to gain new people with it.
Yeah.
That just, I'm glad that part of your life's over.
But I didn't have to worry too much about this because the community side of things, again, those kind of complaints you would usually see on social media platforms where I'm not the one managing it and it was handled by the fan gamer team. But the
Hmm.
places where I would see it is like we shared a trailer to IGN or Nintendo was coming out with a trailer, and then you would see people in the comments going like engaging with each other where people go like, oh, this looks just like Undertale, and then the fans jumping on that guy going like, no, it's the other way around.
Right.
But basically at that point it's hands off because you didn't put that idea in their mind in the first place of those people making that original content, so you can just let them that handle itself. It's not a PR
Right.
thing if it's players versus players talking to each other.
Right. And that's really awesome too. It's like it kind of works out, I guess, at the end of the day, which is
Yeah.
really cool. Where do you see like indie PR heading in the next few years?
More and more focus on video content,
Mm,
absolutely. Though I'm still a very big believer in getting the written word out, and but as you know, and you probably see on the sidelines, like almost every month there is this big press outlet is now taken over by this bigger conglomerate, and then a little bit later, and now these people are fired, and it's always
yeah.
sad because we see the amount of people writing about games like in a steady decline, going down month after month. And it's so sad because everybody's going like, yeah, because the big jumps is when a viral content creator or something makes a really big video on it. That's when I see the big evolution. But people tend to forget that those people usually discover their games
Hmm.
via the written press first or people writing about the game. It's not like the game organically surfaces on their Steam page and they find out, ah, this is a game I should now play and should champion and be the one who makes it popular or something. It's usually still via a press release first, or seeing it on like game trailers, or reading about it on a website, or repeated um,
Yeah.
encountering of that news, like seeing it on social media, then reading about it a few times. And it usually takes a few times of seeing a game come by on your timeline, on your feed or whatever, before
Hmm.
somebody realizes like, this seems to be popular. Maybe I should create content for it. So it's still a very vital part of the equation.
That's awesome. Um, for someone who wants to make a like a PR business that you've done, what would be like some advice that you would give them?
um, to follow a similar road to what I have, whereas it's better to first start on the opposite side of things. Like my roots were in journalism first. I did
Hmm.
reviews, I did interviews. It's the reason why I had that tight knit community of Belgian developers. I was already interviewing them for years, just on a freelance basis, going to their offices, asking them like, "Why are you making this game? What are the challenges?" Hearing them say those challenges and finding what their needs are. At the
Hmm.
same time, writing about it, me doing content. I have a YouTube channel of my own. I write for websites. I've been writing since 2016 or 2017 for websites myself.
Wow.
And just knowing from the other side of the screen, like what do those people need, really helps in giving them what they need. Like if I'm sending out codes for a game, or if I'm pitching people like, hey, you should play this game, I know to include stuff like it takes so many hours to beat the storyline and so many hours to complete it. And it's something that I don't see other PR include in their emails, but it's so vital because that's going to be the deciding factor of, do I have time for this? Because
Hmm.
if I'm pitching an 80-hour RPG, it's going to be much more difficult to slot into their time than if I'm going like, here's a roguelike with a 30-minute repetitive cycle or something, or here is a bite-sized RPG like off that you can beat in like 4 hours if you really want to.
Oh man. What would be like advice that you would give to yourself? Anything that, if you were feeling like a imposter syndrome, or um like even like where you started, maybe you wanted to start sooner. Um what kind of like advice would you give yourself to do this again?
Yeah, just don't take it personally if it doesn't work out. Like every
Mm,
time, I'm going to try my very best for every single game, but it's only natural that some games are going to take off and other games are not going to get the audience that they deserve, despite being very good. And it's not always a factor that's your fault. Like sometimes it can be timing. We launched the game last year, 4 days after Silk Song released, but the timeline
wow.
was the release date was already locked in, and you just have to commit to it at that point and give it your best shot. It was Katana out, by the way, and really worth playing. And a totally different game, but still reaching out to the same kind of audience, and you still see some impact from it. That like, what if, what if? And my advice is basically don't focus too much on those what ifs because none of us have a crystal ball to really tell what
Yeah.
decision at what point in your life is going to bring success. It's just like always try your best and hope that something succeeds, but nobody can guarantee it. And if it doesn't work, don't take it too hardly. The same for indie developers. If they launch a game and it's not a success, your next game might be.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's very good. I like that because then people who want to try to do it, you just got to tell them, you just got to do it.
Yeah, you got to put yourself out there, and sometimes the criticism can be harsh, but at the same time, if you haven't tried, you will never know. So
Yeah. Um, I guess before we wrap up, where could people find Pirate PR, and the best way to find you and your socials?
yeah, social media is sadly different on all applications like the ad, because somehow some kids in high school or something at some point already created pirate PR and we only discovered later. So there's some social media that's different. Like on Twitter, it's at PR underscore pirate. But usually, if you just type into the search box on any social media pirate PR, because we are the most active, you'll
Hmm.
find us there. And on the website as well, you've got piratepr.com.
That's awesome, and that's also where you put like your YouTube videos.
That's where I put articles with advice. Like we've got the treasure trove on the piratepr.com website, and it's
Ah,
basically a
okay.
blog post where I write everything that I can put public, because sometimes I'm forbidden of putting some emails or some advices public because, for example, here's how to update your box art on YouTube. And then
Right.
YouTube contacted me saying, can you please take down the email address because we're getting a much higher increase in emails than we used to be getting. Okay,
Right. Oops.
I'll
Let me
edit it.
change that.
Yeah, but usually just like any advice I can give for free and that I feel has been behind closed doors too much, is something I just offer there for free and that people can read. And
That's
it's also helping
awesome.
me because I used to repeat the same advice over and over and over to everybody, and now I can
Mhm.
just drop a link and say I've discussed it in detail here.
Right. Check this out right here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's
Like, hey,
awesome.
Steam Next Fest is about to happen. What should I be doing? Well, you should read this, and this article. Happy reading.
That's awesome. And you could just send it to them that way because
Yeah.
you don't have to remake a whole nother video because
Yeah,
it's
exactly. And
usually
it's
about
a
the
living
same thing.
document. Sometimes something changes, and then I'll edit that document and make add modifications to it. Like how
Awesome.
with Steam Next Fest, it used to be really important to have a live broadcast. Right now, it's more like you can do it, won't do
Mhm.
much. I would still recommend doing it, but it's not going to be the end all be all that you have to have really two important slots and pick them at a moment when everybody will be watching, because it's just not championed by Steam anymore. But then we make edits to the document saying it's still possible, you can still do it, would still recommend it, but it's no longer essential. Stuff like
That's
that.
awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me. And I'm glad to learn more about this part of like of what you do, because this is, I always thought it was the same thing, like, oh, this is going to be like the social media side of everybody, but it's actually really completely different than what they do on their end for developers. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's basically cultivating that list of people who want to receive your press lists and making sure that everybody who wants to write about new upcoming games that they should know about, that they are on your list and that you're reaching out to them. And with as many as possible on that list, try and make a connection with them, a relationship where you know that if I have this kind of game for this person, he will cover it. Or if I have this kind of news, that's the person who will jump on doing an interview with the developer or with the composer of a game or something, to like
Mm,
really understand what everybody needs.
that's awesome. Well, thank you again. And any of the information from like social media or to even checking out Pirate PR will be in the show notes below, or in the description box if you're watching this on YouTube. And yeah, I'll see you next week, guys.
See
Bye.
ya.